Hello, I am Nadine Carty-Keynes, and thank you for joining us today as we have another edition of the Nevis Emergency Operation Briefing, which provides an update on the situation in Nevis regarding the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all the media houses that are here and that will be presenting their questions at the end of the presentation by all speakers. Today we have with us Mr. Brian Dyer, who is the EOC Director. We also have with us Dr. Judy Nisbet, who is the Chair of the Nevis COVID-19 Task Force, Mr. Lyndon David, Superintendent of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, Nevis Division. We also have Ms. Danella Claxton, who is the Principal Education Officer, Department of Education. We also have with us Mr. Oral Brandy, who is the General Manager for NASPER, the Nevis Air and Seaport Authority, and Mr. Vernell Powell, who is the Deputy Director for Social Security, which is the St. Kitts Nevis Social Security Board. So before we go any further, I'd like to remind the media to hold their questions toward the end, and we will have answers, hopefully, for those questions. Mr. Dyer, we welcome you to make your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, all. With protocol observed, the Nevis Disaster Management Department and the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force implementing drone surveillance technology last week, as indicated in my previous presentation. And we have had a chance to analyze the footage, and based on our analysis, it appears that the general public is adhering to the curfew measures and also the social or physical distancing protocol as established by the Ministry of Health. So that's a good sign. And we do implore you to continue to observe in such measures. A number of recommendations from the analysis has been drawn up, and those recommendations would be discussed at the task force meeting. In addition, I would like to thank also those concerned citizens who have sent their recommendations and concerns via WhatsApp messaging to the EOC. So those would also be compiled and looked at during our meeting. We do appreciate the collaboration and partnership with our community. The NDM, the EOC, has upgraded the VHF radio communications with the National Emergency Operations Center on St. Kitts. And this upgrade has significantly increased or enhanced the clarity of the transmissions. So I want to say a big thank you to retired police officer, Mr. Kenrick McCoy, Mr. Livy Manners, and Mr. Ian Fraser for their hard work. Our next focus would be to enhance the VHF communications at the Alexander Hospital and the main ambulance units. With regard to social services, we have also received some phone calls that are geared towards the social services. I'd like to say thank you for those persons who have been patronizing the social services for various reasons, whether it is for psychosocial support or for food and care packages. And I would like to also appeal to the men in our community. We usually tend to shy away from doctor and other services. So even though we are impaired just as the other persons in our community, we would like to ensure that our men are exposed to these services provided by the social services. And finally, I'd like to say a special thank you also to the Ministry of Health, the Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force, the Disaster Management for their stalling services as we continue our 24-hour operations. And also there are some donors and prospective donors who have indicated that they would be like to significantly contribute to the emergency and essential workers as we go forward. Additionally, I'd like to say a special thank you to Caribbean Digital Display for our setup here today. Mr. Llewellyn Sunshine Keynes has offered to provide food or meals for the emergency services on Thursday this week, along with some masks. So that will be broadcast separately, as well as Mr. Rene Busu and Associates. He has indicated that he would like to provide meals also for the emergency services twice weekly, and he would confirm the dates at our next meeting. And also we'd like to say thank you to Cornerstone for their contribution for us here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer, for your presentation. And we want to say thank you to all those who have been calling, giving support, and providing some kind of assistance, whether in kind or contribution of other sorts. We now have Mr. Lyndon David, Superintendent of Police, make his presentation.
Thank you very much. Good day to all. Last time I was here, I gave you some information pertaining to a number of patrols that we did and arrests, so I'm here to give you an update. Thus far, we have done about 82 patrols dealing with the current state of emergency and curfew. We have arrested 6 persons. 226 vehicles were stopped. For varying reasons, we realized that not only that our persons were breaking, but we were able to interact with some of the persons who were given permission, especially essential workers, and we are encouraging you to continue to comply with the instructions given by the police and defense force whilst they're out there to help protect you. We had 41 persons. They were stopped on the street, and we are saying to persons, stay at home, keep off the streets. Some of these persons, they were given valuable reasons why, attending to sick persons and other things, and then some persons, they were just not aware or don't want to be aware of the restrictions under the current regulations. But we are saying to you, on a second occasion, you will be charged. 2 persons have been informed. 2 persons have been charged for the offenses under the current regulation, and we had 3 persons who were informed that they will be summoned. So, coming out of this, we have court action coming up, and I do believe that we may have to get the court system into play. We have seen an improvement in compliance, and we want to thank all those persons who are adhering to the restrictions that were given to you. But still, we are seeing a few persons, and persons are giving some excuses. Sometimes I get some calls. I want to go to this place for that reason, but remember, we are under a state of emergency and curfew. And please do not try to give excuses to get out of your house to be on the road. We are asking persons to comply to the security forces, especially on the partial curfew days. That's when persons are permitted to leave their homes and traverse to various places for varying reasons of importance in order to ensure that they can get whatever they want or need at that time. Stay at home, we are saying to you. We do believe that if persons stay at home, the spread of this virus will stop, and as soon as possible, our country will be back again. So I just take this opportunity to thank my hard-working staff who are out there day and night to ensure that we stay safe, and all those persons who are complying with the social distancing and staying off the road, disaster management, health professionals, and all those persons who are out on the road whilst other persons are sleeping. So once again, thank you very much for your support, and those persons who have sent you requests for permits, you will get them shortly. Just be patient.
Thank you, Superintendent, and thanks for the updates. We want to, of course, encourage persons to stay at home, and only if absolutely necessary, of course, you can send your request to the Superintendent for permission to be out and about. With that said, we'll now hear from Dr. Judy Nisbet, who is the chair of the Nevis COVID-19 Task Force. Dr. Judy Nisbet.
Good afternoon to all. It has been a concern that we have had some tests that are outstanding, and I wanted to touch on this briefly. Now, the gold standard for COVID-19 testing is what we call real-time PCR testing. The reagents for this molecular tests are not manufactured within the region. And also, we have to bear in mind that we are in a pandemic and that there is a great demand for reagents worldwide. The labs in the region, therefore, have to stand in queue for the reagents, just like their counterparts worldwide. It therefore means that the time for the delivery of test results may be affected and results may vary. The time for results may vary sometimes. We are pleased, however, that some of the backlog of tests have been cleared, and over the weekend we received 16 test results, all of which are negative, and as a result, the number of pending tests is now down to 14. So we have had 71 tests performed so far. 53 of these tests are negative. The positive tests remain at 4, and I want to say that all 4 persons continue to do well, and they're currently symptom-free. 78 persons, as I said before, 14 tests are pending. 78 persons are quarantined currently, and we have released 122 persons from quarantine so far. Now, another matter I would like to touch on, which I have never touched on before, our last positive test was reported 6 days ago. And there's something I would like to say about this, and that is to appeal to persons to respect the privacy of others. It is totally unnecessary and in poor taste for persons to be circulating pictures of persons. It is, I find, an irresponsible use of social media. I encourage persons to use social media in a more positive way and to lift others up and not to discriminate. And while I'm on the note of using social media in a more positive way, I want to encourage persons to sign up for the Nevis Health app on the webpage kn.unhin.org. On this app, you could report your health condition and help us in fighting COVID-19 here on Nevis and prevent its spread. So help us to help you and help us to contain the virus. Now, we usually get calls at 311, and one of the things I realize is that we did not have a number for dental emergencies. We now have a number for dental emergencies, and that is 663-6834. So persons with dental emergencies can call 311, and we will then connect you to the dentist, or you can call directly to 663-6834 if you do have a dental emergency. So thank you. That's my update for today.
Thank you, Dr. Nisbet, for your remarks, and I support your statement in regards to the privacy of persons and showing empathy for persons in our community and to use social media in a positive way. And it was disappointing to know that persons were using social media in such a distasteful way. In addition to that, we do have the Nevis Health app, and we encourage persons to sign up today, and I'm sure the web address will be flashed at the bottom of the screen. We now have Ms. Danella Claxton, who will make her presentation from the Department of Education. Ms. Claxton.
The Ministry and Department of Education remains committed to ensuring that all of our stakeholders are considered and that plans are in place to ensure the continued instruction of our students, even if we have to transition into a virtual space. We released a joint statement from Dr. Debbie Isaac, the Chief Education Officer in St. Kitts, and myself, Zanella Claxton, Principal Education Officer here on Nevis, in which we alerted parents to the existence of the Flow Study platform. The Flow Study platform is a free platform and it's offered by Flow, and that release came out about 2 weeks ago. However, the Ministry of Education has created unique usernames and passwords for all students in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and that means public and private school students, primary and secondary. During the course of this week, the principals and teachers from the various schools will be disseminating those usernames and passwords, and they have a system through which they will do it. So please remain connected to our Facebook page, Ministry of Education Nevis, as well as the individual Facebook pages for your child or ward school. We also released the teacher FAQs, and those are just questions that teachers may have for the Ministry of Education as we draw closer to the start of the new school term and as the vacation period gets to the point of closure. Please note that the teachers and students are still on vacation, and so we will be contacting them shortly as we transition into the new school term. We are very cognizant of the fact that many parents and guardians are running out of activities and ideas of what they can do with their students. And so leading up to Good Friday, we launched the kite making challenge. And what we asked them to do is to create kites out of items that they have at their homes and to take pictures and share with us at the Ministry of Education. They can send those to 668-1400, or they can post them or send them to the Ministry of Education's Facebook page. We will have challenges going on throughout the course of this week and provide some guidance and support to parents. In light of this, please, parents, remember to like the Ministry of Education Nevis page. And to all of you, parents, guardians, and students, we encourage you to continue to practice good hygiene, stay at home, and follow regulations given. And we want all of you to be healthy and safe. And so we wish you the very best. God's blessings to all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Claxton, for that update from the Department and Ministry of Education in regards to measures that are being put in place to keep our children engaged, to keep parents engaged with their children. And so we hope persons are taking the information and liking the various pages so that they can stay updated. We'll now have Mr. Oral Brandy, who is the General Manager for NASPA, make his presentation.
Thank you, Nadine. The Nevis and Seaports Authority, in collaboration with Customs and Immigration, continues to play a significant role in reducing the spread of COVID-19. From the onset of this pandemic, we recognize our functions are critical, not only with respect to the control of the virus, but the continuous facilitation of trade, especially of food and medical supplies. We would have already indicated to you, the public, much of what we have been doing. However, today I want to update you on three main aspects of our current operation: our working hours, our cargo movement, and passenger movement. The Long Point Port is open to the general public only during the partial curfew days, that is, days in which the lockdown is from evening to morning, usually 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. We operate during the hours of 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. While we are open to all customers, we encourage persons to visit the port for the clearance of their cargo only if such goods are urgently needed. Or alternatively, you may use an agent or broker. It's important that we allow those essential businesses and service entities to have their commodities cleared and delivered. Kindly note that NASPA will not charge rental or storage fees for cargo during the restrictive days and weeks. In terms of the other areas of cargo operation, vessels would be worked, that is, offloaded or loaded on arrival, even late into the night. This is necessary for the critical continuous flow of cargo in the region in times like these. As I indicated earlier, it is of utmost importance that food, cleaning, and medical supplies are delivered in a timely manner. We still accommodate air cargo carriers such as FedEx, DHL, and Coastal Air at the airport. Notwithstanding all that I said, both NASPA and Customs are presently operating on minimum staff in our efforts to practice social distancing and protect the safety of our staff and the community. Where passengers are concerned, the airport, Overly Water Taxi Facility, and the Charlestown Port are closed to passenger movements except for emergency or medical reasons as per the COVID-19 regulations. However, anyone who performs an essential service, or if you believe that you have a very good reason to travel within or outside of the Federation, permission must first be sought from the Police Commissioner or Attorney General, as the case may be. The port will only assist or facilitate your movement if such permission was received. We continue to encourage the general public to stay safe and practice the measures put in place by the respective authorities to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randy, for that update. And we're happy to know that that NASPA is still offering services and making sure that the essential goods that are needed are coming in. And we want to thank the staff that are putting in that service every day. We'll now have our presentation by Mr. Vernell Powell, who is the Deputy Director of Social Security. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon all. The Social Security Board recognizes that we are living presently in tumultuous time and has set aside a grant of $15 million to be paid to affected persons. The grant is up to $1,000. It does not mean that everyone would get $1,000. If you have reduced hours, you would be paid the difference. For instance, if you, on a monthly basis, with your reduced hours, get $500, Social Security paid an additional $500. But of course, as time goes by, we could provide all of the details. Also want to inform our employers that your contributions during this time would be deferred, not waived. The fines and penalties would be waived. Again, your contributions during this time would be deferred, not waived. The fines and penalties would be waived. Persons who are interested in, or affected persons who wants to apply for the relief could obtain the form from Social Security website, which is www.socialsecurity.kn, or from the Labor Department, or if any time our office is open, you could collect a form from us. Pensioners, or persons who have applied for and have been approved for benefits, sickness benefit, maternity benefits, whatever the benefit is, please be assured that your benefit check would be received in a timely manner. Also, it is the intention for those who qualify for the relief fund regarding COVID-19, it is the expectation of Social Security to make that payment on the 20th of April and the 20th every month thereafter. Remember, it will be paid for 3 months, April, May, and June. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell, for your presentation and providing some needed information and clarification from Social Security in regards to payment options for various persons. And for further information, I'm sure a person can either log on Social Security Facebook page or website, or they can also call 311 and be directed accordingly. So this has brought us to the end of our presentation for today, our updates that we have here for Nevis. And I would like to just thank persons who presented today for their information. We'll now open up the floor for question and provide some answers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to go for Social Security first, since that's where that is ended. And how will persons know if they were a successful applicant to receive the $1,000 monthly?
Okay, I'll allow Mr. Paul to come forward.
The most obvious reason would be a check in your account on the 20th of April. I'm certain at some point, and I recognize this is new, and so things are not static. At some point, we definitely would write to everyone. Persons who were not approved or applications that were disallowed, we would inform those persons and give the reason why.
Is there a timeline in which that would happen?
I could give a timeline for the payment, which is April 20th. I'm unable to give a timeline for the disallowance information. But I think you could deduce from not receiving a payment on April 20th that it is highly unlikely that it's highly likely that you were successful.
I will now take your question for Mr. Brandy.
Yes, Mr. Brandy. He spoke about restriction for passengers during the COVID-19. My question is basically in two parts. Is it just for the 24-hour lockdown, or is it until this everything is over? And he also, I understand that NASPA does not control the sewerage, but are passengers able to go back and forth via the sewerage?
Okay, to answer your last question, I am not sure, as you correctly said, we do not control the sewerage, but the way I understand the regulations is that whether it's 24-hour restriction or less than that, traveling would be restricted.
And then the last question will be for Ms. Claxton.
Okay.
She basically answered the question, but my other part, is there at this point of time any timeline in which the students will be expected to go back to school?
I'll allow Ms. Claxton to come and answer that question.
Thank you very much for that question. We are guided by the regulations, and so we have to follow whatever regulations are issued. We cannot allow students to go back to school outside of regulations, and so if we have, for example, curfews and lockdowns, those would guide whether or not students can go back to school. Outside of that, we'll be further guided by the task force here and the National COVID-19 task force as well. And as you know, education is a federal ministry in many respects, including the opening and closure of school, and so we will have to be guided by the relevant authorities. In light of that, there is no date which has been identified for the reopening of the physical school space. However, learning will continue whether or not we're in a physical space. Thank you very much.
Okay, one more question. You spoke about virtual classes and virtual lessons. My question now deals with parents. Will there be any help centers set up for parents that need to help their children with their studies?
Okay, so the entire rollout will be in a phased approach. So we will have support for teachers, then students, and parents at the same time, because especially depending on the age of the student, they will need extra support from the parent. And the teachers will also be given guidelines. What we'll try to do is to provide opportunities for interactions and live sessions as well as pre-recorded sessions. It will not be a perfect situation. We know that. We have been looking at models throughout the world, and there is no perfect situation as we transition, but we are committed to providing the necessary support to all students, parents, and teachers, as well as every other stakeholder within education.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Monique. I think it's Nevis Observer for those questions. Any questions from our other media houses?
Hi, Miriam. Good day. This question is for Ms. Jackson, of course. In light of what Ms. Washington asked about the virtual learning program, is it safe to say that, the program hasn't started as yet?
Can you kindly identify yourself for our viewers?
Sorry, Mr. Brown from Bombay.
Great. I'll allow Ms. Claxton to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. As I stated during my presentation, schools are currently on Easter vacation, and because the students and teachers are on vacation, we will not have any actual learning taking place. However, we provided all students with learning packets that they took prior to the school closure, prior to the Easter break. And we have encouraged parents to allow the students to work through those packets, because we know that being in an enclosed space, being at home, can become difficult, and we don't want any loss of learning. And so those students have those packets that they can continue to work through, and those are not new content, they're the review materials from term 2. So we have that transition, and then as we progress, we will be transitioning into the self-paced learning through flow study. Thank you very much.
Mr. David, can we have an update as to how many persons have been arrested to date in terms of, breaking the 24-hour lockdown?
Okay, thank you for that question. I will say to you that we have had 6 persons who were arrested. We have thus far charged 2 persons, and we have informed 3 persons that they will be summoned for breaching this current regulation. So we are at this time encouraging persons to adhere to the restrictions given in the regulations, and also realizing that in doing so, they are making our country recovery as fast as possible. The less infection, better it is for us. So we continue to encourage persons, not just because we are saying there's a curfew, but realizing that the health and well-being of all of us is at stake at this time.
Mr. David, I was also thinking in that vein. Well, this is just hypothetical, of course. We have been made aware of course, the lockdown, and you can't be out on the road and what's not. Now, according to information received based in St. Kitts, there is a certain video going around with this young fella who was quote-unquote beaten by the police. But the question is, sir, of course, you can't speak on behalf of St. Kitts because you're the superintendent of the Nevis Division C.
Indeed.
But the question is, what we want to know is that if such an instance did occur, what penalties or punitive measures would be implemented in that regard? And also, are there any measures or powers to allow the police perhaps to engage in such an act?
Under the Principal Act, the Emergency Powers Act, it gave the police and military wide powers, and you, the citizens, you have been restricted drastically in freedom of movement and so forth. And we will not be copying things that are happening in other countries because I've seen videos where persons being beat out of masks and off the roads. But here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we will not do that. What we are saying to persons that when the police engage you, the police or the defense force would have engaged you in whether a conversation, and you're being resistant to the encouragement, then we have to forcefully remove you. And then forcefully removing you means that you're going to resist. And sometimes it will take certain applications of control to ensure that you are properly controlled and removed to that safe location. Sometimes from a disadvantage point, it may appear as though the police actually doing something wrong. And sometimes from that vantageous point, the police might be doing something that may appear to be not correct, but however, we have rules to follow. So if the person break one of our disciplinary rules or rules of engagement, then disciplinary action can take place. But in any event, all these matters will be investigated internally and the appropriate actions will be taken at the conclusion of those investigations. I hope that I satisfy your question, but I think that's the best way I can answer at this time.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Superintendent, for providing some clarification to that very difficult question. Well, it seemed difficult to me, I guess, because I'm not in law enforcement. But any other questions from our media persons? Our final question will be asked by Superintendent David.
Yes, good day. Again, I'm now on the giving end. I was on the receiving end a while ago. I just want to know something, Mr. Powell, in terms of Social Security. I know a person may have to apply and so forth. Is there a special way they have to apply, or have to come directly to you, or agencies and so forth are employed to assist with the application?
Thank you, Superintendent. Very good question. The forms, the applications could be collected at the Labor Department or at Social Security. They are also on the Labor Department website. They are on Social Security's website. Of course, being at Social Security so long, I know our website quite well. I don't know that of the Labor Department. But our website is www.socialsecurity.kn. The form could be completed online and submitted online to Social Security. Those who have difficulties, there are 2 drop boxes at the Nevis office. One is at the government's entrance and the other is at Social Security's entrance. On St. Kitts, there's one on the Bay Road as well. Based on the multiplicity of calls I've received on my cell phone, it appears that my cell phone number is one of the flyers. And so persons could call me. Lord, please remember that I do sleep, because I've gotten quite a few calls at 10 and 11 o'clock at nights. It would be grateful if you could limit the calls to at least 5 o'clock. But yes, Superintendent, we're willing to assist. They could reach out to anyone that they know at Social Security, because our staff has been sensitized to respond to those questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Powell, for further clarification and guidance. So I would like to say thank you to everyone for joining our briefing on today, 13th of April. Hope everyone had a lovely Easter. And just want to remind persons to continue to obey the quarantine and isolation rules, and to also remember our state of emergency and all the instructions given to stay at home and to practice social distancing. Social distancing or physical distancing should be part of your state of being. Every time you go somewhere, you have to remember social distancing. So when you go to the supermarkets or the pharmacy during our partial curfew period that's upcoming, please remember to social distance yourself at least 6 feet or more. Okay? It's important that you protect yourself and protect others. Other ways that we can protect ourselves during this COVID-19 crisis is by washing our hands often, covering our cough and sneeze with our flex elbow or with a tissue and throw in bin and wash hands after. You can also help by eating fresh vegetables and fruits and drink lots of water and exercise as often as you can. You also want to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unclean hands. And you want to disinfect surfaces around your home or in businesses or wherever you go in your car. Please disinfect often. And practice social distancing. I'm saying that again. And please stay at home. If you don't need to move about, don't move about. And when you're going to do your shopping, remember, as much as possible, one member of the household go out, considering all the different preventative measures mentioned, and keep safe. Additionally, I want to remind persons of the hotline number 311. If that's not happening, you can't get an answer there, you can call 661-5051. That is for Nevis. 311 is for the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. 661-5051 is also a Nevis response. And of course, I'm encouraging persons to sign up for the Nevis Health app at kn.unhin.org, so that we can fight COVID-19 together and stop the spread of this disease in our island. I am Nadine Carty-Keynes, and thank you for viewing. Please join us on Thursday, 16th of April at 8 p.m. for another Nevis EOC COVID-19 briefing.